presentation on our recent publication entitled Differences in Anxieties and Social Networks in Group Match Sample of Autistic Students and Neurotypical Students Transitioning to University. The paper is published in the journal Autism. So my name is JD Lay. I am a PhD student here at the Centre for Applied Autism Research in the University of Bath in the UK. So our Centre for Applied Autism Research is also known as CAR, and here at CAR we run a number of initiatives to support autistic students transitioning to university, but also to employment and beyond. So I'm really delighted here to have James with me, who is a third-year undergraduate student here at Bath. James has taken part in the current study as well as taking part in a number of initiatives that we have here at CAR. So welcome, James.
Thank you. Hello, JD. Thank you for inviting me to take part today. So, JD, what led you to develop this research idea to examine social network differences in students transitioning to university?
Well, I think it's really important to acknowledge the fact that transitioning to university is a really difficult time and really anxiety-provoking for the majority of students. And developing new social connections at university is a really important part of that social transition to university, because by making new social network connections, students can feel much more settled in their new environment, and they know that there are people that they can turn to and who they trust for support when they need it. However, if you think about many students with social communication difficulties, making those new social network connections at university can be particularly challenging. So for students who have higher levels of autistic traits or higher levels of autism symptom severity, as well as higher levels of social anxiety, this aspect of social transition can be especially challenging for those students when they're going to university. James, could you tell us a little bit more about your experience of taking part in this study? What was it like to complete those online questionnaires?
Yeah, of course. So, first of all, I completed the first questionnaire within 2 weeks of starting at the University of Bath. I was asked about particular issues that any student starting at the university would be worried about, so things like course workload, academic stuff, daily living, so for example, living in accommodation with other people, cooking for yourself, your finances, all of those sorts of things, and yeah, of course, socialisation and making friends at university. So first of all, I had to complete the questions to ask about how concerned I was. I sort of filled in how concerned I was about each of these issues. The study I felt was easy to fill out, although some of the, for example, some were involved on tick boxes. Like, for example, if you strongly disagree, you disagree, neither agree nor disagree, agree and strongly agree. I felt that was a little bit vague, and when it came to, I wasn't totally sure what counted as what. So it's a little bit confusing, but overall, I felt the study was very useful, and it was fairly easy to fill out. And also, we had questions about my autistic traits and the levels of specific autistic traits, those known in autism, that I had. I was then asked to provide a list of up to 20 people, so basically a social network, people who I'd met in different things like school, my family, my friends outside of university, and also new friends from university as well. For example, how long I'd known these people, and and their relations to me. Also, how similar they are, whether, for example, they were on average or above average, that sort of thing. And also when we were asked about how supported I felt in general by these people, and with particular issues, how much I felt I could turn to these people for support when I was asked about these particular issues. So, yes, I felt that the study was very easy to fill out, although some of these things could have been a little bit clearer and a little more specific.
So in general, that's a note for us to kind of take into account. So questionnaires that's adapted for the autistic individuals to complete. The language clarity really needs to be improved.
Yes, that's the thing that some people tend to have some problems with.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So JD, this study used a group match design. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so in this cross-sectional study, we had 28 autistic students and also 28 neurotypical students who were matched on a number of demographic variables, such as age, biological sex, ethnicity, but also pre-university academic performance, the types of degrees that they were studying at university as well. So group matching really allowed us to control for the effect that these additional demographic variables might have had on students' ability to adjust to university transition above and beyond the differences that we're seeing in autistic traits and also social anxiety. So therefore we were really able to gain a better understanding of the unique associations between autistic traits, social anxiety, and also students' transition to university worries, as well as their social network structure and perceived social support between autistic and neurotypical students.
So now we come into the more of the details about this paper. So JD, what were some of the research findings?
Yeah, so our findings showed that autistic students really experienced greater levels of social anxiety, but they were also more worried about different aspects of transitioning to university compared to their neurotypical peers. So we also found autistic students on average had a smaller social network size compared to their neurotypical peers, but both groups actually reported having received similar levels of social support at university. So despite actually having similar levels of pre-university academic performance and also studying similar levels of degrees at university, we did find that autistic students still perceived greater academic distress when they were thinking about transitioning to university compared to the neurotypical peers. Students in both groups who experienced the higher levels of social anxiety, not autistic traits, also reported greater distress both in daily living aspects but also in socialization aspects of university life. So in contrast, neurotypical students who experienced greater levels of autistic traits reported more distress in daily living activities, whereas the autistic students who had higher levels of autism symptom severity experienced greater socialization distress at university. So therefore our results suggest that all students, regardless of having an autism diagnosis or not, experienced elevated levels of social anxiety when they were transitioning to university. So that points us to some shared vulnerabilities across both student groups. In contrast, autistic traits or autism symptom severity seem to have more unique associations with particular aspects of transition to university that students in each group found to be quite difficult.
So JD, what do you think are some potential research and practical implications from the current research findings?
Yeah, so I think by examining similarities and differences across social networks and also perceived social support between autistic students and neurotypical students, we can really begin to understand whether there are unique vulnerabilities to the autistic students per se, or whether there are broader kind of shared vulnerabilities that applies to all students transitioning to university. So I think the findings from the current paper potentially can inform stakeholders when they're planning kind of workshops that assist students in terms of transition to university, particularly in terms of addressing how do you manage and cope with social anxiety when you're going to university, and also how do you manage some of the other worries associated with transitioning to university as well. Thanks again so much for taking part in the study and for helping us to make this video abstract as well.
Thank you so much for allowing me to take part. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Of course, and best of luck for your final year at university as well.
Thanks very much, and you as well.
Thank you.